I'm just waiting for YouTube to go live. I'm just waiting for YouTube to go live. There we go. All right. All right, it is 7:30. I'm just going to wait a second in case anybody's on YouTube and are looking for the instructions to get on the meeting. And then we will start us off. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Pursuant to the New Jersey Public Opens Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the Board Office, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118, and on Vios Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. The meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, November 17th, 2020. The board will take formal action on payment of bills and agenda items. Mr. Mara, please.
The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that that act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered the private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Callie?
Here.
Mr. Caro?
Here.
Mr. DePrima?
Here.
Mr. Dunn?
Here.
Mr. Giordano?
Here.
Ms. Lent?
Here.
Mr. Sulikowski?
Here.
Ms. Ellis Foster?
Here.
Quorum exists.
Thank you. Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. If we can start with Pledge of Allegiance, please. Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. All right. Again, thanks everyone for joining us this evening. Let me just get the agenda open for everybody here. It's here somewhere. There we go. Thanks everyone for joining us this evening for the agenda meeting. We're going to start off for next week with a moment of silence. And do I have anyone who would like to volunteer for the Code of Ethics?
I'll do it.
Is that Ms. Callie? Ms. Callie?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
On goals. We will have approval of minutes, which everyone should have gotten. Which we're not voting on those today, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Correct. No. Yes.
Next week, we will hopefully have Dan, our student representative, with us. At this point, I don't know, do we have any recognition, Mr. Citadino?
Not at this moment.
Okay. However, we will move on to Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. If you could share this screen, I'm just, I wanted the public to be aware. I know everyone's been receiving my alerts as I'm trying my best to keep the community aware of COVID as it impacts our schools. When we get information to provide it to you in a timely fashion. I really want to thank my team, are doing this with me, not just the administration and the teachers who are doing an amazing job in these difficult situations in the classrooms and the school leadership, but Dr. Hoker and Audrey Baker are part of my my COVID team, and within moments we have to look at contact tracing, making various contacts within the community, outside the community, within the county, and then looking at a staffing impact right away and see how fast we can get qualified staff members in there. If that staff member who was quarantined or who falls ill isn't able to continue with the position, we have to find staffing. And a lot of times, and especially right now, we cannot find substitutes. It's not a, and being in this, coming into the schools during this time is not something that we're able to, be fortunate to find qualified staff members to join us. So that proves to be difficult at times too. So if we could just kind of go through this presentation. So this is New Jersey data. I'm just move my little screen over a little bit so I can see it. We're starting off as August 3rd as a point of reference, especially because that's the date we had to notify the public of our reentry plan and where we were at. And then we could see September, kind of a little of a dip in September right off the bat as schools got ready to open. And then there's been an increasing spike in COVID cases in the state on a weekly basis. And these are, these are the 7-day average for the state of New Jersey, going up until just the other day. This graph represents the hospitalizations in New Jersey. Again, we see that same consistent climb. The November 17th data, that doesn't even reflect a full week. So this is what we're looking at that time, that brief moment in time. But again, now we're over 2,000 cases in which hospitalizations are occurring in New Jersey. And one of the things that gets talked about a lot is, well, we're seeing more cases because we're testing more. Well, that wouldn't equate for seeing more people in the ICU and seeing more hospitalizations. Just because there's more asymptomatic people being identified and when tested, that doesn't mean, well, why are we seeing an increase in a spike in the number of people in the hospital and ICU? Just because you're test positive and you're asymptomatic doesn't mean you go obviously to the hospital and be put in the ICU. One of the graphs that I didn't put in here is the use of ventilators too. I think it's 400 ventilators being used in the state at this time. This is just from today. So Middlesex County is the second highest county in the state of New Jersey for new daily COVID cases. We're only behind Bergen County. And if you remember back in, because it all seems kind of cyclical at this time, remember back into the spring in March, Bergen County was the highest county in New Jersey with COVID cases. So now they're back the highest again. We're second behind them. I think it allows, a lot has to do with our proximity to the urban threshold of that's there, and a lot of travel that goes in and out of the tri-state area from Bergen County, Middlesex County into New York, and so forth. And this is just Old Bridge Township. These are weekly COVID data. So the week of July 31st, we had one case in Old Bridge the whole week. If you look, in August 25th, I think we're around 10 cases that week. Currently, right now, in the past week, we've had 154 cases just in Old Bridge of new COVID cases over the course of the week. Today, the state system is down, so they're only reporting 5, but I assure you there's more than 5 cases, just the system went down. There was 5 cases before the system stopped reporting. But the past 4 days, we had 27, 26, 27, and then 28, just the prior 4 days to today. And this last slide is the impact within our schools. So if you look, these are just the past data from the past three days. The number of staff positives, we're now at 13. that puts 50 staff members quarantined and staff pending cases. So this is something we're always looking at and why the numbers seem to grow, where the staff member, because they're asymptomatic or they have a loved one or someone home they lived with who is symptomatic, and now we have to track their case and watch to see, they're going to quarantine, but does that turn into a positive case as they're waiting for them to either become symptomatic or someone themselves or a loved one getting a test taken, where then it changes the dynamic in which we respond. And you go from someone who is a contact of a contact to a contact of a positive. And once you become that contact of a positive, it changes the ball game a little bit as far as we have to do contact tracing. Currently, there are 21 students positive in Old Bridge. 130 students are on quarantine. And again, we're tracking 7 other cases. We just got a report tonight, right before we came on, of some information that we have that, again, it goes through a process. It's not just someone coming through and just saying, hey, listen, this is a positive case. We have to confirm it's a positive case. We have to do some homework, and that's where Audrey and Kathy's been doing an amazing job. The numbers at the bottom are since the school year started. So these are the total impacted across the school year. And one of the things that we're obviously facing is the staffing impact. There's been, we're not the school district, and it's something I've had to talk to parents about, because obviously when we get these calls, some parents are upset that, there's COVID within the school, but we're not an impenetrable membrane. That's not the way school operates. There are people coming in, people coming out. Whatever you go out and you come in contact with, you bring with you. So that's been a lot of the situations that we're dealing with. Aside from Miller School, that we all know what Miller School is right now on a 14-day remote-only learning phase, because in the 3 cases at Miller School, we couldn't tie it to anything outside the school. The only thing that the 3 persons had in common was Miller School. So that directed us to close the school, or at least make it remote for 14 days. So in those situations, I can't say for sure that those cases generated outside the school. But in many of the cases in which they generate outside the school, the problem is a person comes in, they become positive, and as we're seeing over the past few days, they're taking anywhere from 10 to 24 people with them through the contact tracing process. You have to do the contact tracing. It's mandatory. We call the county on each positive case, and we go through this. It's coming to the point where it's becoming difficult to staff our classrooms because of this. On the other case of it, obviously, we don't want our students becoming ill and bringing it home to their family members as well. We don't want our staff members to do that as well either. So something that the numbers don't tell you is that in going through this process, we've had 3 staff members hospitalized for COVID-19. 1 hospitalized for long-term, still has not returned to work. 1 was hospitalized, and the COVID-19 developed into a lung clot. And anyone who with a medical background knows that can be very detrimental to your life. It can be life-threatening when you get a clot in the lung. So thank goodness that person did respond and go to a hospital and was treated so accordingly. The other thing the numbers don't talk to you about is the quarantine factor, what that does to not only the students' families, when you have a student who's now quarantined and has to stay in the home for 14 days because of a possible contact within school, but for the staff members as well. You have a staff member who comes to school doing their job in which they're impassioned and love doing, and because of a contact with either a student or a coworker, now for 14 days, they can't leave their homes. It's one thing to be able to teach remotely from home if they're well enough to do that, but now they can't leave their homes. They can't go see their loved ones, and they can't take care of their families in the way they might need to. So that's definitely an impact we look at too, as we look at the number of student and staff that are quarantined and the impact that that's had on those lives. So as we look forward to the testing that we're looking to do, I want to thank this township from the mayor's office, and I'm sure with the support of the town council, to look and partner with us and to offer testing prior to Thanksgiving, because we know there's going to be a lot of families who want to get together, even if they're doing it in small groups within their homes. But there's going to be peace of mind in knowing that you had a test with results positive, tying into you right before you were able to visit with others, especially if you're visiting with the elderly or someone with an underlying health condition, to be able to have that test. So we're going to have testing on information is already presented out there on social media, but it will be on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday prior to testing. The Synergy, which is the lab that's doing that, they're providing their own testing and they have their own lab. So it's their goal to provide everyone who takes a test with the results prior to Thanksgiving. And obviously was key in getting this done. So one of the things that they're doing the PCR test. It's not a rapid test. And all the data they've given you, even from the state of New Jersey, all those bar graphs, those numbers do not equate for any rapid test. The state does not recognize the rapid test as a positive result on their data. So all of those are the PCR type test. So if you think of the number of results that we have and how many people are positive, but from a rapid test, those numbers don't even equate to that. So obviously it's going to have an impact. One impact it has on the school district going forward, we will see. I know that my reentry team is meeting tomorrow. We combine the reentry and the remote teams to work to get a bigger group of parents and staff involved in this process. And we're going to take a look at the data and see what the future looks like. I was speaking to someone who's an expert in this field right now, because respiratory illness is something that he works with. And, the news was grim in the respiratory season is just beginning, and talking about how respiratory illness, which the last COVID outbreak we had in the spring, it didn't tie in or match up or link up with the respiratory season. It actually hit us at the end of the respiratory illness season. So the respiratory illness season runs from October to March, and it really hits its stride in December. And traditionally January is worse than December and February is worse than January. And then in March, it starts to quell and diminish. And then April, we see the numbers going down. So that's obviously a concern we have in the future as we look at just our November data right now. So thank you very much. And I look forward to working with this community and the many stakeholders that are involved in these decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Sedina. So next, we actually are moving on. Is that me? Hope not. There we go. So actually, next we move on to the public portion, public comments on any agenda items only. So let me just get up. So remember, this is just on agenda items only. Any general comments that can happen at the end of the meeting, we will have the opportunity for anybody to speak on any topic whatsoever. So if anybody has a comment on any of the agenda items only, if you're on Zoom, if you just raise your hand, if you're on the phone, you can hit *9. I'll just give a minute to see if anybody has anything on any agenda items. Which I don't see at this time. So, okay. So now we'll move. Am I sharing my screen? Yes? Okay. Let me just switch over now we'll go back to the agenda. And we'll close the public portion for public comment on the agenda. And we'll move on down to policy. I don't know if, Mr. Parton, if you want to explain the various readings that we're going to be doing next week.
Yeah, we had a policy meeting last week and went over these. Many of them are mandated. One of them, which is bylaw with regard to remote public board meetings, was a long time coming, but has a quick turnaround time. So this is going to be a first reading tonight and a second reading and adoption next Tuesday, because the Department of Community Affairs, understandably, now that these regulations exist, they want this implemented equally statewide. The other one is the board committees, which we discussed in October. That is a second reading for next week, and the rest are all just routine first readings. But one of them, or a section of those routine first readings, does pertain to the restart and recovery plan. So that's just adopting the most current state regulations in that important area.
Okay, great. Any board members have any questions or comments on the policies? Okay. All right, next is curriculum professional development. There's 2 items. Any questions or comments from anybody? All right, now after that, athletics, which is showing blank, and I'm going to assume we don't anticipate anything there next week.
I just want to state that, the NJSAA is holding a meeting tomorrow discussing the winter season for high school and high school sports. So when that information comes out, they're going to have a decision hopefully by Friday. We will then obviously have us place positions and so forth on there depending upon that information.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have finance for this evening. We are going to vote on 1 and 2. So if I can have a motion for finance 1 and 2.
Callie will move.
Mrs. Callie, can I have a
Lent will
please?
second.
And Mrs. Lent, second. Thank you. Any discussion, any comments? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Mara, roll call, please.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Caro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 and 2 pass.
Okay, thank you. And then for next week, we will have 3 through 12. So any questions on anything 3 through 12? Any comments? Will number 7, Mr. Mara, be filled in?
Yeah, late this afternoon, we got the rate increases finalized. So the rates are being reduced on Direct 15 by about 6%. You know what, I don't have it committed to memory.
Okay.
It'll be on for next week. Sorry.
Okay, great. That's okay. Thank you. All right. All right, nothing else. We're moving on to nothing right now, non-certificated personnel office. So I'm going to assume probably nothing next week.
Correct. Nothing that I know of.
Thanks, Dr. Hoker. Okay, so non-certificated personnel operational. For this evening, we are voting on number 1. If I can have a motion for number 1.
Burns will make the motion.
Okay, I got Mrs. Burns and second, Kara.
Kara will second,
Okay,
yeah.
great. Thank you. Any comments, discussion? None? Okay, Mr. Mayor, roll call, please.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Caro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Okay, great. And then for next week, we have 4 through 8. Any, oh no, no, I was wrong. I'm sorry. 2 to 3. Sorry about that. I'm already on to the next one. All right, great. Anything on 2 or 3? Nope. All right. Next, non-certificated personnel other. This evening, we have 1 through 3. If I can have a motion.
Callie will move.
Callie
Lent will second.
and Mrs. Lent, second. Thank you. Any discussion on 1 through 3? Seeing none, Mr. Mara, roll call, please.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Mr. Caro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 3 pass.
Now, next week, 4 through 8, any questions or comments?
Yes, we have three retirees on this agenda, one on non-certified personnel and the other two in certified personnel. I'll go over that next week.
Thank you. All right. Then we will move on to certificated personnel. This evening, we have 1 and 2. If I can have a motion on 1 and 2, please.
Burns will make the motion.
Mrs. Burns, and can I have a
Lent will
second, please?
second.
Mrs. Lent, second, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Merrick, we can have a roll call on 1 and 2.
Mr. Caro,
Yes.
Mr. DePrima,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano,
Yes.
Ms. Lent,
Yes.
Mr. Silikowski,
Yes,
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Callie,
Yes.
Ms. Ellis Foster.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 and 2 pass.
And then we have items 3 through 16 for next week. Any questions, comments on any of those? Nope. All right, we'll move on to, right now, there's nothing in non-certificated personnel transportation or supplies, equipment, and services. We don't expect anything else for those two.
Not at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to transportation. Nothing to vote on for this week. So it's going to be 1 through 4. Any questions, comments? No? Okay. On to miscellaneous. 1 through 7. I just have a question. I know historically we have the December regular meeting at 7 p.m. because we usually get to hear some of our kids perform. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to have any kind of a performance. I don't know if there's anything recorded that we can have. Maybe. Or
I will work with Ms. Keeler to see if there's something we can do, but I don't think it'll take up that much space. And we've been kind of low on because of not being live. I'm trying to do justice with a recognition. We haven't had as much recognition either. So I think even if we did it at 7:30 and we were able to do something that we could, still start at 7:30.
okay, everyone fine, good about starting 7:30 for December 22nd? Okay. If we can do that, and Mrs. Torrey, then if you can update that, so for next week, we'll have the December 22nd at 7:30 instead of 7.
I'm predicting a lot of snow that night too, so we'll be fine.
Okay. All right. Trust me, I think people would rather have your snow calls than the ones they're getting now, but thank you. So anything else under miscellaneous? Nope. All right. Then on to the board business. I know we are waiting final results from the county.
Yes, we have not, to date, we have not received the official results. And with all the chaos with the elections, these were the unofficial winners. So let's just wait and see until we get the official notification.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So now, well, that's all the agenda stuff. Now we are opening to hearing of the residents on any school board item. As a reminder, if you are on Zoom, if you can just raise your hand, I can unmute you. If you're on the phone, *9. Okay. All right, I don't see anyone right now. So I'll note just one more minute, but all right, not seeing anyone either raising their hand. I will close the public portion of the meeting. And just asking, do we have any old business? Any new business?
Yes, please.
Mr. DePrimo.
Getting back to some kind of normalcy, I'm having a committee meeting on Thursday. It's now called athletics / extracurricular. I am looking forward to it. I am not looking forward to hosting it on the computer because obviously I have some computer problems, but I think Mrs. Foster will give me a hand, I hope. Anyway, whoever's here from the public, they're usually very informative meetings. We've changed the structure a little bit of it, but it's still going to be a great informative meeting. I hope everybody can make it. 7 o'clock Thursday. The instructions are on the website. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I would like just to do a personal shout out, well, it's not necessarily board business, to our colleague, Mr. Dunn, who is the new chief of the South Old Bridge Fire Department. So congratulations to him. I'm happy because he looks after my house in South Old Bridge. So congratulations, Rich, on that. Well earned.
Thank you, Kelly. Much appreciated. And as you can see, I'm at the firehouse tonight, and it's a very large responsibility. We have training, so I have to oversee it. So I'm trying to wear both hats tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Nope. So we do have an executive session this evening. Mr. Parton, please.
Yes, you need a motion for executive session for attorney-client privilege and board property security issues.
Can I have a motion for executive session, please?
Carol, a motion?
Oh my goodness. Well, I heard Callie first.
And to Carol, I got. So,
Okay. All right.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are going into executive session at 8:03, and
We will not be back. So thank you.